What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Sidelined NFL Week 10. It's already been 10 weeks. It flies by. Before we get going, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to Wilco Media. Let's get going. My 3 biggest takeaways from this week of NFL games. The Vikings are for real. I think a lot of people were doubting the Vikings. They were 7-1, but people were saying they hadn't played anyone. And the one good team they played, Philadelphia, they got crushed by. This game proved something to me because they went into Buffalo in November, cold, kind of rainy, bad conditions for Josh Allen and the Bills who were rolling. And the Vikings took care of business. Justin Jefferson looks like the best receiver in the league. He was unbelievable. Kirk Cousins had 2 picks, but he made some big throws down the stretch. They got stops on defense. Pat Peterson had 2 picks. I think this game proved to everyone that the Vikings are for real and should be taken seriously, especially in a weak NFC. My second takeaway, do not let Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get hot. We have seen this story too many times. How many times do you have to see the movie before you know the fucking ending? Everyone doubts Tom Brady. Oh, he looks old. Oh, they don't have it this year. Oh, the Bucs, not the year. Well, listen, they just won 2 games in a row. They just beat a rolling Seattle team in Germany. They're in first place in the division. The NFC looks very vulnerable other than Philadelphia. The Buccaneers need to be taken seriously, especially down the stretch, because that's usually when Tom Brady teams get rolling and play their best football later in the season. My third takeaway is I am a little concerned for the Cowboys. They have an excellent defense, so many good pass rushers. They have Dak Prescott, good running game, good receiver, CeeDee Lamb. But this game versus Green Bay proved to me that the Cowboys are vulnerable, and what we all knew, they make mistakes in big spots. They were up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and they lost. Prescott threw some bad picks. They just, whenever you think they're like there and they can't be beaten, that's when they lose. They let you down. You can't take them seriously. They're very good, but they're just chokers. They're born chokers. That roster is full of chokers, and until they prove it, I'd be concerned as a Cowboys fan. And that's all we got for our takeaways. We're very lucky to be joined by a good friend of mine, friend of the program. Everyone loves him. Sam, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Sam, I'm doing better that you're here. I think our most viewed videos are with you because everyone wants to hear what Sam has to say about this week's of NFL games.
Oh, come on.
The people, they tweet at me, where's Sam? What episode is Sam coming back? Everyone wants to see you, so very happy you're back.
I just had to give the people a little bit of a taste,
Yeah.
Didn't want to give them the full service.
All right. First game, this was in Germany, Sam. You speak German. Achtung! You speak the Fräulein. You speak German? Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Germany, Munich. Yeah. Dusseldorf. All right, Buccaneers, Seahawks, morning game in Germany. It was a close game, but the Bucs were pretty much in control all game. Seahawks made a little bit of a comeback at the end, fell short. Huge momentum game for the Bucs. The Bucs were finally able to run the ball. Geno Smith played well, but not well enough to win. Sam, what are your biggest takeaways from this game?
So I would say that the Bucs looked like they were able to move the ball well. They were able to establish the run game, even though Fournette did go down in the game, which is a big loss for them.
He did.
Because although he is injury-prone, he is definitely one of the better running backs in the league when healthy.
Playoff Lenny.
But they did have a good secondary backup to him, Rachaad White. He ran for over 100 yards in this game, so that was good to see that if Fournette is out for a period of time, they have somebody to fill in for him. It was also good to see that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were somewhat back to their normal selves, catching the ball, making those big plays down the stretch. Tom Brady looked great as usual, besides that one trick play that they ran.
Yeah, that was bad. Leonard Fournette threw a pick.
They should have hit him that first time that they ran it, and then the second time, there was no way they were going to run that to perfection because it was an underthrown ball, and also Tom slipped. So
now, Sam, the Bucs were 3-5. They've won 2 in a row. They're now 5-5. Would it surprise you if this, they gain momentum from here on out and they go on a deep playoff run, maybe upset Philadelphia in the playoffs? Would that surprise you, Sam?
No, it wouldn't really surprise me at all. Their defense is phenomenal. Like, they got one of the better defenses in the league. I'd
They
say
got some
arguably top 5.
They got some brothers.
The only thing that I could see them from preventing them from, making a run in the playoffs is definitely their offensive line.
Bad.
If they're not able to protect Brady
Yeah.
and give him at least a couple seconds to throw the ball
Yeah.
and survey his options, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, no, they let up some big holes, Sam.
But
Big holes.
It was good to see, though, because Seattle's got a very good defense, and the fact that they were able to give Brady a lot more time this game definitely shows some promise.
Can I just say, fuck Giselle. If she divorced Tom, part of the reason, because she doesn't like him playing football, he's doing what he loves. Support your man. All right, that's just an aside. No, I agree, Sam. Bucs, look out. All right, next game. See what we got here. Sam, we got Minnesota versus Buffalo. Minnesota won in overtime, 33-30. Sam, this was not the game of the week. This was the game of the year. Maybe it had the catch of the year by Justin. In my opinion, that's the best catch I've ever seen. Overtime game. Josh Allen threw some bad interceptions. I mean, so much to talk about from this game. Sam, what are your biggest takeaways?
So biggest takeaways by far is that the Vikings defense had a lot of question marks going into this game. I would say they held their own, especially down the stretch, like in the fourth quarter.
Timely turnovers.
And in the overtime as well. I would also say that Kirk Cousins can definitely produce in the big moments.
Oh, wow. So is that official? It's on this. Sam Reed is a believer in Kirk Cousins.
I am a believer now.
Okay.
Because this was definitely the spotlight game, even though it was not like, the game of the week.
It was still 1 p.m. They're calling 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins.
It was a 1 p.m. game, but it was definitely the game that everybody wanted to tune in. It was probably the biggest game of the slate on Sunday.
It was.
And he provided a performance of a lifetime when they needed it. I also would have to say that Justin Jefferson is by far the most talented wide receiver that we've seen in the NFL this year.
Sam, I think he's the best receiver in the league. I mean, I don't think anyone gets open like him. Even when he's covered, he goes up and gets it. He's unbelievable. Yard off after the catch. Sam, that catch he had, it was 4th and 18. He went up over 2 guys, Odell'd it, came down with the ball. I think that's the best catch I've ever seen.
It's a fucking great catch, and what a throw, too.
If he doesn't make that catch, Sam, they lose. If he doesn't make the catch of his life, they lose that game.
Absolutely.
And he made another one down the stretch at the 2-yard line. He ate the turf and still held on to it.
Now, let's talk about the Bills.
Okay.
You want to talk about the Bills?
Let's talk about the Bills.
So, I feel like
Buffalo.
They did have a lot of momentum in this game. Like, Allen and his crew were definitely moving the ball. They established the run game. Singletary had a pretty decent game on the ground.
Yep.
But I would say the play calling and also, down the stretch when they needed to make some plays, they just could not get it done.
Yeah.
Allen was not seeing his reads properly. He made a couple mistakes, like at the end.
Huge might cost him the game.
Yeah, throwing the pick to Pat Peterson.
Pat P.
What else? I would also say that call at the end with Gabe Davis and that catch,
You think it was bad?
it was not a catch.
Yeah. It was like the Des Bryant catch.
All they had to do was go over it on replay. It would have been settled in like 5-10 seconds. They would have seen that the ball just moved in his hands. He didn't have control going to the ground. It would have been over.
I mean, Sam, my biggest takeaway is the Bills are the most talented team in the league, and Josh Allen's like unbelievable. They're fucking idiots. I mean, what are you fucking doing? I mean, how fucking numb are you to blow this game, dude? They stopped them at the end of the game, right? They had a 4-point lead. You could have took a safety at the end of the game. All you got to do is not fuck up the snap. They did that. Minnesota does that. All right. Then they come back, tie the game, and then in overtime, you're in the red zone. You kick a field goal. You live to fight another day. Play calling, it was a bad play call, and it was a really bad throw by Josh Allen. Listen, he's got balls. I'll give him credit for playing this game, with the elbow and some of the runs he had. He puts his shoulder down. But, I mean, him and Mahomes, I think, are the 2 best quarterbacks in the league, but he still makes some stupid turnovers once in a while.
Yeah, I feel like he can only do so much with his legs. He's got to figure it out one of these days of finding the right reads and knowing where to put the ball and where not to put the ball.
He reminds me of Brett Favre in the sense that his arm, he's so gifted throwing the football. Sometimes he feels like he can just like sling it into anywhere and not get in any trouble, and he throws some bad picks. Because Favre used to do that all the time. It cost Favre how many trips to the Super Bowl. I saw that from Josh Allen here yesterday.
Definitely. If he keeps up this pace, he could definitely go down as one of the greats.
I agree, Sam. All right, game of the year. We both agree game of the year?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, all right. This game, I think a lot of people were surprised because, Sam, the Packers suck and blow up to this point this year. I think Aaron Rodgers is, more focused on psychedelics than he is football. But listen, they were able to come back from 2 touchdowns. They beat Dallas in Lambeau in overtime. The Cowboys blew a big lead. They blew it prematurely. And, they choke again to a team they're better than. What are your takeaways?
So I just feel like when you're up by 2 touchdowns late in the game, you got to find a way to close it.
Absolutely.
You got to go in for the kill.
Close the deal.
You got to go in for the kill. You can't just take your foot off the brake. You know what I mean?
Premature. You got
to keep it on the gas pedal and don't look back.
Yeah.
So, Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys, they definitely have some stuff to figure out going into this next week here.
I think he sucks, Mike McCarthy.
Oh, he's not a good
coach. He's overrated.
I mean, think about it. He's got all the weapons. He's got everything in front of him.
Their roster's loaded.
And what does he do? He can't fucking provide in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a guy that goes in and is like a guaranteed, all right, we're taking a trip to the Super Bowl. It's always like a first or second round if they do make it. You know what I mean?
My biggest takeaway from this, Sam, I don't know if you agree. Green Bay, I think we know they suck. I think this is just a mirage. I wouldn't expect anything from them. My biggest takeaway is Dallas. You can't, just when you think like they're good, they're elevating their top tiers in the league, they blow a game like this. Dak makes some bad interceptions. They blow a 2-touchdown lead. The defense looks vulnerable. Questionable coaching decisions. A game like this proves to me, in the spotlight, they're not gonna come through, because if they're the first wild card team in the NFC and the Buccaneers are the 4 seed, you're telling me they're gonna go into Tampa Bay and beat Tom Brady and the Bucs in the playoffs? There's no chance. I don't see it happening if that's the matchup, and I just can't pick the Cowboys to make a deep playoff run.
I also feel bad for CeeDee Lamb. This was his coming out game
love
this
CD.
year.
I love CD
because he's got Dak back, but apparently,
Club.
it's still Dak Prescott leading the realm, and you saw how bad those picks were.
I like Dak. He makes bad mistakes though sometimes, man.
And those bad mistakes snowball.
He's balding
too.
too.
Look at the score right there. 2-touchdown lead.
Yeah.
Making mistakes at the wrong time, and they ultimately lose the game.
His hairline's receding too. You notice that?
LeBron.
All right. Next game, we have Browns-Dolphins. Now, Sam, this was because 4 games were good games to talk about. The 5th game was hard to pick. I picked this one. Miami killed Cleveland. But I wanted to talk about this game because I wanted to talk about the Dolphins. I think this is a lost season for Cleveland. We both agree. Maybe Brissett could have held it down, but looks like they couldn't get it done before Watson came back. I think the Dolphins, their offense is incredible, maybe the best in the league. Waddle and Tyreek Hill is amazing. Jeff Wilson, Mostert, 2-headed monster. They can run the ball. Tua is playing as good as any quarterback right now. Sam, in your eyes, I'll ask you 2 questions. 1, is Tua in the MVP conversation? And 2, are the Dolphins the second best team in the AFC behind Kansas City?
I would say that Tua, there's definitely a case for him to be in the MVP case, situation. Yeah. I would say that based on this performance, especially because there was a lot of talk saying Tua, he doesn't make good reads. Oh, he doesn't have the arm strength and whatnot. I mean, this was the perfect situation. To start off the game, he threw a couple touchdowns to guys that we didn't even know.
Yeah, that's true.
Think about it.
No names. I still don't know their names.
No names.
No names.
And basically, he's showing it. He can sling it to anyone.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think there's any problems with his arm. As far as the Dolphins being a clear-cut favorite to win the AFC with the Chiefs, I wouldn't go that far yet. I feel like they're a very young, inexperienced team, especially in the playoffs, because we haven't really seen them in the playoffs in how long?
Since I think Tannehill maybe 5-6 years ago, they're like a wild card team.
So they've been out of the race for a couple years now. I feel like we'd have to see what they can do this year if they continue this pace going into the playoffs. And, we'll just take it game by game, week by week.
Sam, I agree. I think you have to put Tua in the conversation. I mean, if you're a quarterback of a first-place team and you're playing well, you're automatically going to be thrown in the conversation. I think I'd probably put him 3rd behind Josh Allen and Mahomes right now. And I think they're to be taken seriously. I think Kansas City is the best team in the AFC. I'd put Miami right there, Buffalo, Cincinnati. I might put them ahead of Cincinnati too. I think in the playoffs they'll be dangerous. But I agree with you. They're unproven. I want to see how it looks in January. When they go on the road in Buffalo, in Kansas City, how good does the offense look then?
Right.
I agree. All right, last game we got here. It was the Sunday night football game. 2 California teams. The Niners, they edged out the Chargers, and at the end of the game, they made a comeback. 49ers gained some steam, Sam. They're moving their way up the AFC West. Chargers struggle. Jared Everett, he pulled his groin. He got hurt. No Mike Williams. No Keenan Allen. No Rashawn Slater. What do you think, Sam?
So this Chargers team is very depleted. As you could tell, Justin Herbert doesn't really have a guy to throw the ball.
No.
Because his number one option for this game was Josh Palmer, and he only had like 3 or 4 catches this game.
He's like a third, fourth receiver.
Exactly. He's not a clear-cut number one, and God forbid, look at the score. They were up by 10. Thank God for DeAndre Carter.
They had a good first drive.
I mean, he looked very good despite him being like a wide receiver 4 or 5 on the depth chart.
He's a fringe roster guy.
Very good playmaker, I'd say. As far as this team looks for the rest of the season, I would say I would not count them as a playoff team. They're like a fringe team, if that, if they're able to scrape a couple wins down the stretch.
I mean, Sam, I think they're a fucking disaster. The Chargers. I mean, frankly, if I'm a Chargers fan, there aren't any Chargers fans, but I think this coach is a bozo. This Staley guy. I mean, who does he think he is? Going forward on fourth down all the time. They blew it last year. They were stacked. Their roster stacked. They have a lot of injuries. People thought Herbert was going to be the MVP. He's struggling. Not all his fault because his 2-3 best pass catchers are out. But I think they're. I don't think they're legit. The Niners. They're gaining steam, but again, like they're a weird team. Like they'll drop a game like to an Atlanta Falcons. Like I don't know, Sam.
I feel like the NFC West is definitely open.
Yeah,
it's gonna come down to Seattle, and I think probably the Niners.
Do you think they'll catch Seattle? If you had to pick right now, who's gonna win that division? Who'd you say? I'm gonna put you on the spot, Sam.
I'd have to look at the schedule. I'd have to look at the schedules, but I feel like with the momentum and what I've seen the past couple weeks, I definitely give the edge to Seattle.
Okay.
Just because Geno Smith has looked great these past couple weeks, and their defense has been phenomenal.
Okay.
Really bailing them out, making plays down the stretch. So I feel like if they're able to continue to run the ball with Kenneth Walker at the helm, I feel like this team could definitely make some noise in the playoffs.
I agree with you. I think the Chargers are not to be taken seriously. They have too many injuries, and I don't believe in the coach. I think Niners, Seahawks, I think that's going to go down to the very end of the season, who wins that division. I'm interested because the Niners loaded up. They traded all their picks for Trey Lance and fucking McCaffrey. I mean, they get the weapons, so it's now or never for San Fran.
I don't know how far they're going to go with Jimmy G at the helm.
Okay, you're not a Jimmy G believer.
I mean...
Sam, he's Italian.
He was struggling this game against the depleted secondary of the Chargers.
Wow.
I mean, he wasn't able to, make those plays that we need Jimmy G to make. I mean, he's got the weapons, like we said. You got Deebo Samuel,
Ayuk,
who's the most versatile person in the league.
Deebo?
Ayuk, who's like a 1B to him, pretty much.
You got Kittle.
Same kind of situation. You got George Kittle, who's arguably top 5 tight end.
I would give it to him.
And
top
then,
3 probably.
In the backfield, you got McCaffrey, who is a generational talent.
He's a good player.
And you're still only able to put up 22 points against a depleted Chargers team. That's terrible.
All right, you heard it here. Sam Reed hates Italian people. Sam, thank you for coming on the show. It was great to see you. Great to have you. The fans are going to be I'm going to get so many tweets. Thank you for having Sam on. It made my day. I know it made my day. It made the fans' day. Sam, thank you.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
All right. Let's finish up the show here. Let's go sweet and sour, everyone's favorite segment. Give you 3 sweet, 3 sour from this week. Fantasy football games. Let's get into it. My number 3 sweet this week is Justin Fields. Sam actually picked up Justin Fields in fantasy. Justin Fields is balling out fantasy-wise. He ran for over 150 yards. He had over 40 fantasy points this week. These running quarterbacks, once they get hot, they're kind of a cheat code in fucking fantasy, because even though he's not throwing for a ton of yards, he's rushing for a lot of yards, and he gets a lot of rushing touchdowns. His schedule also coming up, it's dog food. He's got a lot of good matchups coming up. If you picked up Justin Fields, you're looking like a genius right now, because I guarantee no one drafted him to start the season. People are thinking he might get benched. If he's on your team, I think you got to play him unless you got Josh Allen or Mahomes. Justin Fields could finish fantasy this year as a top 5, maybe even top 3 QB. Justin Fields, sweet, going the rest of the fantasy season. My number 3 sour is Russell Wilson, another running quarterback who's gone the opposite way. Russell Wilson used to be a cheat code in fantasy because he'd get the rushing yards, he'd throw deep bombs to Metcalf, Lockett, Doug Baldwin back in the day. I mean, the Broncos sucked, maybe the most disappointing team in the league. Their offense is non-existent. Jerry Jeudy looks like he might have just tore his Achilles or ACL or whatever. I mean, they're trending downwards. They put up 10 points against Tennessee. Russell Wilson, he kind of stinks this year. You can't play him. Bench him. I think you can release him. Russell Wilson, sour this week. Number 2 sweet is Tua. Tua is playing unreal football. If completions count in your league, too, for fantasy, he gets a ton of completions. He's throwing a lot of touchdowns. The Miami offense is going off almost every week. They hung 40 points on the Browns. They have a good balanced attack, and they have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And you know he can feed both of those guys the ball. They're both huge playmakers. Tua's got over 20 fantasy points ever since he's come back from injury. He looks really good. I wouldn't expect anything to change. Their offense, I think, is going to continue the rest of the season. If you get Tua, you got to play him. He's been hot. I think it'll continue. Tua, sweet this week. Number 2 sour is Darren Waller. It looks like a lost season for Waller. This is an easy one. He was drafted, I would say, as probably the tight end 4 or 5, probably 5 behind Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, and Pitts. And it's just been a very disappointing season. When he was on the field, he didn't do much. And he's been hurt, banged up all year. They just put him on IR. He's going to be out at least another 2-3 games. But even when he's healthy, this Raiders team is sputtering. I wouldn't trust anyone on their offense besides Adams and Josh Jacobs. Renfro wasn't even doing anything this year. It's a lost season for Waller. It feels like one of those he's going to be in and out of the lineup. And I think if you have him, I think you can release him. I would rather go with other reliable tight end options. Darren Waller, sour this year. My number 1 sweet, the sweetest of them all, is Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the league right now. He should have been the first receiver taking in fantasy this year. Maybe you could have taken Cooper Kupp. I would have went with Jefferson. I got him in a 12-man league. Thank you to John Godwin for drafting Najee Harris, 1 pick before. Justin Jefferson is unbelievable. He had 10 receptions, 194 yards, and a touchdown last week. Every game, he gets fucking like 15 targets. He's the clear-cut guy in Minnesota. Kirk just feeds him the ball. Even if he's not getting touchdowns, he's still putting up 20-plus fantasy points. He gets so many targets, so many receptions, so many yards. He is likely going to finish the year as the number 1 fantasy receiver. Probably be taken, again, top 5 next year. And he's young. He's in a thriving offense. Justin Jefferson is sweet. He could be a league winner this year. He's unbelievable. My number 1 sour, DeAndre Swift. Now, listen, I love DeAndre Swift. He's a really good player. He's a really good talent from Georgia. And he looked like a lot of people thought he was going to pop off this year. But the story of his career has been he's always been banged up. He's been in the league 3 years. And whenever he's in, he produces. He does well for the Lions. But he's just never healthy. And he's played the last 2 weeks. But he hasn't had 10 touches since like week 2 or 3. He had 8 fantasy points, 8.6 points this week because he got a touchdown. He doesn't get a lot of Jamal Williams is out touching him. And until he has like a game where he gets like 15 touches and, 20, 30-point fantasy game, I frankly wouldn't play him. You can't trust him. You don't know how many touches he's going to get. Seems like he's banged up. They're slowly working him in. I love DeAndre Swift, but you can't play him. It's too risky at this point. DeAndre Swift, sour. And that's all we got this week. Fantasy. We're very lucky to have Sam on the show. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We can't believe it's been 10 weeks. Flies by. We'll be back next week, week 11. The Patriots are playing again. We talking them. We talking Kansas City, Buffalo, Minnesota, Dallas, all the big teams, all the big games. Remember, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Join us next week, Mondays, 8 o'clock, Sideline. Thanks for watching.